2014 in Coventry, England. The staff at a Costco warehouse on the edge of town are clocking off early, heading home to families, last-minute shopping, and midnight services. Among them is a 34-year-old marketing manager who's packed a suitcase. She's told friends she's spending Christmas with someone special. She believes this is the night her life is finally going to come together. But what she doesn't know is that the man at the center of her plans has been making plans of his own, with his brother, to end her life. This is a story of how a secret office affair became a carefully engineered murder and how the digital breadcrumbs of this case turned a missing person call into a homicide. This is Sameena Imam. Nothing says Christmas like chloroform. Hey y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Podorf. Welcome to Hitched to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part. Yes, welcome. And for our friends from Armenia. And this goes out to a good friend of mine down in Charlotte, North Carolina, Mr. Eli Agopian, who's Armenian. Baragaust. Now, he can tell me how much I butchered that.
Listen, even if he doesn't, someone will.
It's true. We
do the best we can, y'all.
Yep.
Wherever you're listening, be sure to subscribe to Hitched to Homicide, then like, rate, and review the podcast so other people who love true crime and are just like you can find us.
Yep.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you want true crime with us all the time, please go join our closed Facebook group, The In-Laws and Outlaws. Go to Facebook and type in H2H In-Laws and Outlaws. Answer a couple questions you are in. Go join. We're getting people in there by the busload.
We are.
We love it.
Yep.
I post photos and other information in there as well. Great group of folks. We love them very much.
Yes, we do.
You can find us on Instagram at Hitched to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast. And we also have a Buy Me a Coffee link. I try to get through all this stuff so quickly in the beginning, y'all. If you want to send Rob some coffee, he drinks it every single episode. You can find that link in our show notes.
Yes.
You can also send us a text. The link to that is at the top of the show notes where it says, send Chris and Rob a text.
Or send Scotty a biscuit.
That would be like in the Buy Me a Coffee. Send Scotty a biscuit,
Yeah.
Rob some coffee.
There you go.
And Chris, just the prayers to get through Christmas. I'm almost finished Christmas shopping. I hope everybody out there is doing okay.
Yeah.
I went Christmas shopping one day, and I kid you not, I got yelled at and honked at by one person and flipped off by another.
It wasn't even your fault.
And I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was just going to the doctor to get my blood drawn. Seriously, I wasn't even shopping.
You were within swinging range.
I was just in the traffic.
Yeah.
People just, somebody flips me the bird. Must be Christmas.
'Tis the season.
Apparently.
Wow.
Well, we're back in England. And Christmas is coming soon. Father Christmas. Isn't that what they call him? Father Christmas?
Yeah.
And we're just old Santa Claus over here.
Yep.
This is a tragic story about how you have to be so careful who you give your time and your attention and your heart to.
Right.
So, ladies, listen up to this one, okay?
Yep.
Before we get started, let me thank some sources: Vice.com, the BBC, ITV, the Coventry Telegraph, the Outlaw Podcast, Crime and Investigation, Crime Lapse, Gruesome, Horrific True Crime, The Independent, the Irish Examiner, The Mirror, Wales Online, the Daily Mail, and many others that you can find in our show notes.
That's a mouthful.
There's a lot of them.
Yep, all right.
I've just stopped listing them all at the beginning because there's so many now that I use. So just go to the show notes.
Yeah, all right. Well, you ready to go?
I am.
Let's do it.
There's not a whole lot about Sameena Imam's early life. I believe she was born in 1980. She is of Pakistani heritage, and I know she had at least two sisters, Noreen and Nosheen, and a younger brother, Imran. Imran. I'm going to really try to get all these names correctly and do my best. Believe me, I'm not trying to do a disservice to anybody's name. I'm really not.
Anytime you mess it up, just remember I just said Baragaust.
Okay, I will. We do know that her family lived in Essex, so perhaps this is where she also grew up. But by the time she's 34 in 1924, she was a very accomplished businesswoman working as a regional marketing manager for one of Rob's favorite stores.
Yes.
Costco.
I love their hot dogs.
What's the saying? Shop in stores with concrete floors.
There
if you want to save money, you got to shop in stores with concrete floors.
Yep. I love Sam's and Costco because they have the best hot dogs for $1.50.
Yeah. And he can get, 75 rolls of toilet paper while he's there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, where else can you do that?
Exactly.
She lived in Cardiff and she traveled to more than one Costco as a marketing manager. She's going to all these different territories, and she goes to Coventry, Bristol, Southampton, and Cardiff. And Sameena is a tiny little thing at only 5'2".
Wow.
But you know that Shakespeare line from A Midsummer Night's Dream, though she be but little, she is fierce. Well, that's Sameena.
And that's my wife.
She was the one in her family that everybody would go to for advice and for guidance. She was very smart. She was funny. She was optimistic. She was a really hard worker. She had a very magnetic quality to her that drew people to her. And she had a close group of friends that she really liked to go out with on the weekends.
Okay.
Now, she's very close with her family. She was exceptionally reliable with her family and at work. And speaking of work, as she's traveling to and from these Costco stores, she deals with the store managers. And this is how she meets and falls in love with Roger Cooper, the manager at the Costco Coventry warehouse.
All right.
These two meet in 2012, and they hit it off. For Sameena, it was love. For Roger, she was just another notch on his bedpost, but she didn't know that. These two date in secret for 2 years, and they do this for a couple of reasons. Number one, Costco does not allow fraternizing with your coworkers.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Apparently, it is a fireable offense.
Wow. I guess they don't want any fooling around in the dairy section.
I guess not. It's awful cold in there. Nobody'd want to fool around in there.
True.
You got to go to the tires or someplace.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was forbidden for these two to be in a relationship. But Roger is in a relationship, a long-term live-in relationship with a woman named Susan Potts, who had no idea her boyfriend was sleeping with another woman, or 2 other women. That's right. Roger isn't just living with Susan and sleeping with one Costco employee. Nope. In addition to living with Susan and sleeping with Sameena, he is also bumping uglies with another Costco employee at the time. Her name is Sinead Sweeney, a woman who is under him in more ways than one.
I was going to say, no pun intended.
He was her boss.
Yeah.
Sameena knew about Susan, but she didn't have a clue about Sinead. And Susan didn't know about Sameena or Sinead. And I don't know what Sinead knew. But 41-year-old Roger Cooper was originally from Essex. Don't know much about his background either, but we do know he has a younger brother, David, who is ex-military. Not the kind not the kind of military where he saw action on the front line or anything,
right?
But military all the same. I think he was like in intelligence or something like that.
No,
I take that back. He was not in intelligence. He was in something else.
He peeled potatoes.
Probably. That's about as good as he's going to get.
All right.
But Roger and his younger brother David were avid Star Wars fans.
Okay.
They had multiple Star Wars models and figurines.
That should have been your first warning sign.
Now, there's not anything wrong with that. I'm a huge Wonder Woman nerd.
And I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but when you're an adult and you're making... Never mind.
Yeah. Now, so just remember that, Star Wars fans.
All right.
By the time the end of 2014 rolls around, Sameena's had a buttload of Roger. She loved him, but she was tired of his antics, and not the kind where he's sleeping with 3 women at the same time. She's tired of him lying to her over and over again because for the past 2 years, she has tolerated Roger's excuses on why, even though he loved her so very much, he couldn't leave Susan, the girlfriend that he lives with. He would make promises he never intended to keep about leaving Susan so the two of them could be together. And for a while, Sameena believed him. And when he said they would be able to live happily ever after, you know, these two have a lot to lose. Roger more so than Sameena, I think. But he's going to tell her, we're going to eventually live happily ever after.
I promise, I promise.
I promise.
Yeah. If any of Roger's friends or Susan's friends or acquaintances saw Roger and Sameena out in public, then everything would backfire. So they had to hide it from everyone. So whenever they would go out on dates, they would go like super far out of town. Or to be fair, most of the time, apparently, they would just spend time in Sameena's house. And they were just always on edge trying to hide this relationship from the world. And as their affair intensified, again, Roger started making all kinds of promises to Sameena. He'd been telling her for months and months and months that he was going to leave Susan for her. One day, he was just trying to figure out how to do it. He said that one day he would move out of that house and the two of them, him and Sameena, would run away together and they would start their lives together. Gonna waltz off into the sunset.
Sure.
But it never happened. He was just always saying it, and he would say it just enough and never follow through. And Sameena needed a little less conversation. A little less conversation, a little more action. And a little more action, just like Elvis.
Well, thank you very much.
But she was getting no action. When she was in Coventry, Sameena would spend her entire workday with the man she loved, only to watch him at the end of his shift, driving home to his actual girlfriend that he lived with. And Sameena just always hoped that one of these promises, one of these times that he told her he would leave, he would actually do it. But again, at the end of 2014, Sameena's getting fed up with all of Roger's false promises, so she issues an ultimatum. Leave your partner by Christmas, or we're through. I'm gone, and I'm going to expose our affair and let the chips fall where they may.
Uh-oh.
Hey, I'm going to tell on you.
Meaning, Roger could lose his job.
Sure.
Sameena, Susan, and Sinead in one fell swoop. He could lose them all at the same time.
Right.
So Roger assured her that he was still trying to figure out a way to leave his girlfriend for her. In fact, he promises her that by Christmas, everything would be sorted out and they could live their lives together in the new year and have a fresh start. And this time, Sameena really believed him. I mean, she'd believed him a lot of times, but her faith in him was wavering at this point.
Sure.
But maybe this time, because he's given a deadline, he really means it. Plus, she said, I'm going to expose you.
Right.
So Sameena's elated. I don't know if that's how you get a man. You threaten him.
Yeah.
But she's elated. She thinks it's going to happen for the two of them. And he was going to be with her in time for, well, at least in time for Christmas.
Right.
In fact, she got so excited it was finally happening that she booked a romantic couple's stay over Christmas Eve and Christmas Day at the Malmaison Hotel in Birmingham for the two of them because she expected him to have been broken up with his girlfriend at that point and they could spend Christmas together as a couple.
Right.
Finally. So she's counting down the days because remember, she's always kept this affair a secret even from her closest friends until now.
Okay.
She's told a couple of her girlfriends that Roger is leaving Susan, and the two of them have been having an affair, and she's in love, and they are planning to spend Christmas Eve together. They're going to have a getaway. Now, Roger doesn't know this, that she's told her friends.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's saying, what if Christmas Eve came and he was still with Susan? What if Sameena said something to Susan, or she might say something to the powers that be at Costco? And in fact, this is Roger's biggest fear. So Roger needed Sameena out of his life. He goes to his brother David, and together the two of them concoct a plan not to, quote, take her out of his life, but to kill her.
Eliminate her out of his life.
Completely.
Yeah.
And for some reason, his brother David's like,
that sounds like a fantastic idea.
okay, sure. That seems like the only way out of this.
Yeah,
Good idea.
I got nothing going on this weekend.
So David goes on eBay. His brother goes on eBay and buys chloroform and a, quote, peculiar combination, end quote, of toxic metals, including antimony, which is tin, cadmium, which is like a heavy metal, mercury, and arsenic.
Man.
These are all prepared in a liquid form.
Jeez.
And here's their plan. The Costco Christmas party is on the night of December 12th, and their idea is that Sameena never survives this night. She would be drinking, and when she came back to the Premier Inn in Solihull, a hotel she stayed at frequently when working, as the 12th rolled over into the 13th, Roger decides this is when, well, Roger and his brother decide this is when they're going to get Sameena. So Roger texts her, telling her to meet him at the hotel. He's got a room. He's got a surprise for her. And they decide when Sameena arrives in the parking lot of the hotel, David would be waiting in the dark. His brother David's waiting in the dark to grab her, abduct her, and knock her out with the chloroform. This is the night when the Cooper brothers started speaking in code via text. Star Wars code.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
The two used references to Darth Vader and the Death Star space station to update each other on the progress of their, quote, mission, end quote.
Okay.
One text was, "You are expected, Vader."
Wow.
Another was, "Death Star complete."
See, this just gives bad names to us Star Wars fans. Gosh.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about these two in a little bit.
All right.
But when Sameena arrives, she is not driving. She's not driving her black BMW, and she's not parking in the dark parking lot. She's arrived by taxi, and the driver takes her to the front door of the lobby, a well-lit, camera-filled entrance.
Okay.
So Sameena waits in the lobby for Roger. This plan's ruined for these two geniuses because Sameena is responsible and didn't drink and drive.
Right.
So it ruined their genius plan. Again, I use that word loosely. Then they text each other in misspelled French saying no point, no score, and that the, quote, window is closed, end quote. Another message contained the word nil, meaning there was zero chance to get to her.
Right.
So Darth Vader and Grand Moff Wilhuff Tarkin.
I grow tired of asking this, so it'll be the last time.
Isn't that his name? I had to look it up. They muffed their homicide. So Grand Moff Tarkin is the guy who runs the Death Star. I looked that up. I was trying to get my Star Wars references in there.
I guess I'm not that big of a Star Wars fan because I had no idea who that was. Jeez.
Well, somebody who is a Star Wars fan is going to tell me.
Okay. All right.
But they muff their homicide opportunity, and Sameena is none the wiser. She just goes to bed. But now it's December 13th, and the clock is ticking. Roger still wants her dead, but he can't think of a convenient time or opportunity to get her alone where no one will know where she is. Mm-hmm. So he contemplates a lot until Christmas Eve, and he's like, screw it. I'm going to go for it. I don't have a choice. Meanwhile, in Leicester, Roger's little brother David is preparing a place for Sameena. And when I say preparing a place, he's been digging a grave. But more on that in a minute. December 24th, Roger and Sameena leave the Costco warehouse after their shift finishes at 4 p.m. They get in their separate cars and drive away. But Roger has a plan to see Sameena again that day at a nearby M&S supermarket. They make it look like a chance encounter. And the market isn't far from Costco. They start talking. The conversation is about what their plans are for the weekend. And Sameena buys some alcohol, a bottle of Bellini, and snacks, presumably for this romantic getaway she believes she's going to have. That's called foreshadowing. Yep. Now, Samina's thinking we're grabbing our weekend getaway bags for this romantic Christmas holiday after Roger tells Susan that he's leaving her. So Roger picks Sameena up from her place in his Audi, and the two of them head to Birmingham. But before they could ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after with their new romantic life, Roger tells Sameena that they had to make a quick pit stop on the way to the hotel because he had some Christmas presents that he needed to drop off at his brother's house. Some Star Wars figurine or model.
Star Wars.
Or some such nonsense. Sameena's good with this. She might actually get to meet someone from Roger's family because she's been in the shadows for the past 2 years.
Sure.
They stop in Leicester where he lives, which is an hour away from Birmingham, which is where they're headed. They're driving an hour out of the way to get this Star Wars figurine to him.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. On the way, Sameena's phone rings. It's her sister, and these two are gabbing about their plans for Christmas between the two of them, and Sameena's family had this tradition of getting together on Boxing Day, December 26th, to have family time. They did this every single year. And while these two are on the phone, Sameena confirms that she will be there in Essex the day after Christmas to celebrate with her family.
Okay.
It would be the last time her family would ever speak to her. So Roger and Sameena pull up to Roger's brother's home, David, in Leicester, a little after 5 p.m. It's winter. It's already dark. That's a good thing about winter, right? You leave for work in the dark. You come home in the dark.
Yep.
I'm being facetious. I hated winter when I would have to go out in the dark and come home in the dark.
I still hate winter.
I do too.
Yeah.
So they're on their way, and Roger's all lovey-dovey. Oh, this is great. He's holding her hand. Everything's great. Until they walked into David's home. David and Roger immediately jump her, pinning her down to the ground, and she can't move. She's only 5'2". Roger is 6'5".
Wow.
His brother is 6'7". David is 6'7". Big guys.
Wow.
Big. Huge.
Yeah. Huge.
The two men get her down on the ground, and Roger, the man she loves, pins her to the floor, while his brother David, remember he's been shopping, he gets out his 200 milliliter bottle of chloroform that he bought off of eBay. He's got it on the ready. I did look this up, and at least in the United States, you can't get trichloromethane. That's what it is, trichloromethane,
right,
which is the chemical makeup of chloroform. Our chemist son, he was helping me out with this part. It's primarily used in lab settings in manufacturing of industrial products, but it was originally synthesized in the 1830s and has historically been used as general anesthesia and in water purification. But people kept dying when they used it as an anesthetic. So that's why they moved to nitric oxide.
Right.
But it was used up until 1979 to disinfect drinking water until the EPA started regulating the disinfection byproducts in drinking water. Yeah.
Jeez.
So you know what this tells me?
What?
This is why Gen X is indestructible.
Yeah.
We were drinking chloroform in our water out of a hose, unsupervised, after riding in the back of a pickup truck before staying out until dark.
Well, I don't have any excuse because we grew up out in the country and we had a well.
Well, your well probably didn't have chloroform in it.
I don't think so. It probably had some other stuff in it.
I don't think the EPA was coming out to check your water.
That's true.
But back to our story. So while Roger pinned Sameena down, David got a tea towel from the kitchen. He poured the chloroform on it and went into the living room where Roger has Sameena now on the couch. And he's straddling her to keep her subdued. And David just walks in and covers Sameena's face with his tea towel soaked in chloroform, knocking her out. But she's fighting them both. So David doesn't just hold it to her mouth, he smothers her with it while he sits on her arms so she couldn't move.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, upon entry into the body, chloroform rapidly affects the major organ systems, causing sedation and potentially damaging the liver and kidneys. But at very high concentrations, it causes immediate cardiac arrest or respiratory failure. But was that all that killed her? Because they had that weird combination of metals.
Yeah.
So did they inject her with these liquid metals too? Or did they force her to drink them or force them down her throat? There's a lot of mystery surrounding what actually happened in that house as they were killing Sameena.
And tell me one more time, what year was this?
2014.
Okay, so when they did the autopsy, though, they would be able to tell if there's any kind of metals in her body.
Yes, they could.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But again, because Roger and David are never going to tell the same story or an exact story, all the details are murky.
All right.
Within minutes of arriving at David's home, Sameena was dead. By 6:25, so less than an hour and a half after they arrived at Roger's home, she is dead, and Roger is already driving back to Coventry and his live-in girlfriend, Susan, who was totally oblivious that he was now not only a two-time cheater, but he's also a murderer.
Wow.
So he leaves Sameena's body with his brother David to dispose of, while he just goes home for Christmas. But David actually has an allotment of land, and he had already dug Sameena's grave there. And an allotment of land was something that started during the war or during wartime when poor people couldn't eat. They couldn't get to food. So it's a small parcel of public or private land that's rented for growing vegetables, fruits, and flowers to provide food and outdoor recreation for people who don't have private gardens.
I didn't know that.
And the plots were usually around 250 square meters. That's about the size of a standard tennis court. So not huge, but not tiny either.
Sure.
Before Roger leaves David's house, he takes Sameena's phone with him. He, in his genius mind, believes he needs to create an alibi. So he decides he's going to do this through text messages. Roger uses Sameena's phone to text his own phone, quote, "I am fuming. I am going to where I'm truly cared for," end quote. He wants it to seem as if they're having an argument and she's leaving him because Roger needs a reason why he and Sameena didn't check into their romantic hotel on Christmas Eve. Roger thinks the police will look at Sameena's bank records, her email, her calendar, and see that maybe she was planning on meeting him. But if they were fighting and Sameena went where she was, quote, truly cared for, that explains why they didn't show up for their hotel reservation. And it was Sameena's idea not to meet up because she was the one who was angry. And now, I get it. She's the one who's angry. But now he's implicated himself that they were to go away with each other.
Right.
But they'd had this argument. That means you were angry.
Right.
You had a reason to want to harm Sameena on the day that she goes missing.
Sure.
And police wouldn't have even known any of that had you not sent her a text from her phone to yourself. Yeah.
Except at this point, he doesn't know that her two girlfriends know about the affair.
Well, that's true. He doesn't know that. But he's thinking that she's written it down somewhere.
Okay.
And that's why he thinks he needs to give himself an alibi.
All right.
But here's the thing. I just don't get why he feels he needs to murder Sameena to keep her quiet about their affair, only then to essentially confess to the affair over these alibi texts. And it wasn't just a dinner they were having. This was a hotel room. This was a romantic relationship he was having with a woman who was not his longtime live-in Susan or his bonus side chick, Sinead, from work.
Right. You know, I watch a lot of YouTube videos of confessions when they're interrogating a person.
Yes.
And it's always when the person is guilty, they give too much information.
They can't shut up.
Yeah. They overemphasize everything and too many details.
Well, just wait. That's called foreshadowing. Good job.
Obi-Wan has taught you well.
Obi-Wan has trained you well. I'm going to stick with my Star Wars pun. Sorry.
Continue, you will.
Yes. Thank you. The next morning on Christmas Day, Roger wakes up and sends Sameena a text from his own phone again. He hadn't responded to the fake argument text the night before, but he does text to wish her a Merry Christmas. So he's saying to anybody who's looking, the cops, the authorities, she was mad, I was the bigger person, and I texted her the next morning to wish her Merry Christmas. Whatever.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Roger's brother David is getting rid of Sameena's body and any evidence he thinks could implicate the two of them. And this guy is proof that God has a sense of humor because he's about as sharp as a sack of wet hair. They both are.
Wow.
Roger wrapped Sameena's body in cling wrap, saran wrap, and then he placed her body inside one of his old army sleeping bags and he zips her up. The Cooper brothers owned this allotment of land, right? I already said this. He takes her saran-wrapped body there in this sleeping bag, and he puts her in the ground in this grave that he'd already dug before he thought he dug the grave before the 12th of December when they were going to jump her outside the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But she showed up at the front door. And these two brothers think that no one would ever go searching in this plot of land we own. Why would they?
Okay, let me guess. That's what they are thinking.
Yeah, sack of wet hair. I'll say it again. Now, these two might have disposed of her body quickly the night before, but what were they going to do with her car? Roger picked Sameena up. She'd left her car on a side street near the Costco in Coventry because it blended in with the cars on the street, and it didn't immediately attract any attention.
Okay.
But hold that thought.
All right.
The next day, Boxing Day, December 26th, rolls around, and Sameena doesn't show up to her family's party, and they are immediately worried. She would have called them if something came up. That's the kind of person she was. She wouldn't have wanted her family to worry about her. She always called or texted because this family is super close, tight-knit, and they know something is wrong. So they go to her house, and she's not there, and her car is also gone. So they call the police to report Sameena missing. But the police didn't take it as seriously as her family did because they knew something probably wasn't afoot. You know, they can't go after every single person or adult who just kind of like doesn't show up to a family party, right?
Right.
And of course, the police couldn't have known how on the ball she was, and that her absence and the fact that her car was gone was alarming to them.
Right.
And since they deal with this kind of thing all the time when somebody goes MIA, they're like, you know what? We can't allocate resources to this right now. But if something else happens, come back and tell us.
Right.
But Sameena didn't just ignore her family. She didn't show back up at Costco to work after Christmas. And now the West Midlands police are hot on the case. They went to Sameena's apartment to check it out. They break into her home to make sure she's okay inside. And the home wasn't ransacked. It didn't look like there'd been a struggle. There was nothing to see, nothing to worry about. And her car is gone. So maybe she was like, screw this place. I'm out of here for a few days and Costco can kiss my grits.
Right.
But they talked to her colleagues at Costco and they looked at where the staff parking lot and the streets were nearby. They wanted to see if her black BMW had been seen or even ticketed. But when the family reported her missing and the police started poking around, Roger and David moved Sameena's BMW from Coventry to Leicester and then on to Luton, 65 miles away, to park her car on a neighborhood street. Then they wiped it for fingerprints and they just shut the door and walk away. So the police escalate their search for her car using PNC and ANPR, number plate systems, and the UK PNC is Police National Computer. It's the database that holds nationwide records on people and their cars and their property. And ANPR is automatic number plate recognition. And this is the camera networks that automatically read vehicle registration plates and log where and when a given plate is seen. And detectives can search those hits and reconstruct a car's movement over time to see if a suspect's car has traveled between key locations and then narrow down where it was last spotted, which is pretty daggone cool.
Yeah, I mean, we have that here in the States for tolls and things like that. In fact, I made a trip to Virginia, and on the West Virginia Turnpike, I don't know how it happened, but they had my plate number. And I had to go online and pay them a whole 86 cents.
Well, because you blow through those, either you have the pass in the States, you either have like the toll pass.
No, I know that.
And you just blow through it and they take a picture of your license plate because they send you a picture of the back of your car,
I just couldn't figure out, how was it 86 cents?
Well, apparently you didn't pay the right toll. Who knows?
I don't know.
But they also put out information about her car on Crime Stoppers. And on January 4th, 11 days after Sameena was murdered, police get a tip from a random person who had spotted Sameena's BMW on a side road in Luton.
Okay.
Police go and check it out. They confirm it is Sameena's car. They search this car and they find nothing. No purse, no phone, no fingerprints, which in itself is a telltale sign of something hinky.
Yeah.
At least her prints should be on the steering wheel.
Sure, yeah.
The other clue was the fact that Sameena, who's 5'2", is tiny, and she had to sit with her seat way close to the steering wheel, as do I. And when Rob climbs into my SUV, he knocks his head and then he curses. Sorry, I'm short. I can't help it. But the police look at this seat, and the driver's seat was pushed way back, like somebody who was extremely tall had last driven this car, like maybe 6'5" or 6'7". Yeah. So now the police know that there's a high probability that someone else drove Sameena's car and ditched it in the middle of nowhere and wiped it of fingerprints. So police begin their investigation by tracing Sameena's trail for when she was last seen at Costco. What was her plan for Christmas Eve? Who was she with? And what were her plans? Where was she going?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And who was the tall person who was last driving her BMW?
Right.
Police get the records from Sameena's phone network. Who called her and what were her texts? And this is when police see the text from her on her phone to Roger on Christmas Eve saying that she was fuming and that she was going somewhere where she was, quote, truly cared for, end quote. Now, it doesn't take long to figure out who Roger Cooper is,
right,
especially when he's her coworker.
Right.
And because of the nature of the text, the authorities had to be thinking these two are hooking up. But they didn't know it was all a big secret, or that Roger was supposedly in a committed long-term relationship with a woman named Susan Potts. Now, Roger's called into the police station for an interview. He tells them that he hadn't seen or heard from Sameena since they left Costco, which was stupid because they had the whole meet and greet at the supermarket where people saw her.
Right.
He tells police they both left work at 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve and he hadn't heard or seen her since. Dude, you sent a text to yourself.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think he's stupid on purpose, but it sure seems like he practices a lot. The senior investigator on the case, Detective Chief Inspector Paul Judd of the West Midlands Police, is running Operation Ceramic. That's what they called it. That's what they called this case, Operation Ceramic.
Oh, I wonder why they called it ceramic.
Well, I had to look this up, but in the UK, the forces typically assign investigation names to major investigations from a pre-approved list of generated words, rather than picking something with a direct link to the case in order to avoid revealing sensitive details or biasing witnesses. So in the States, we usually, they'll, if it's a serial killer, they'll name them like Son of Sam or whatever, right? But not like the actual case that they're investigating, unless it's a big case, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they just go by numbers.
Sure, yeah.
But it just made me think of Operation Mincemeat because, like CIA, FBI, they do give names to their cases.
Right.
But I thought I loved it that in the UK, if it's a big case, it gets a name. So this is Operation Ceramic. And DCI Judd knew that Roger was trying to cover something up, and he confronted him with the facts that they already knew, that they didn't think he knew they knew, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah. I thought that you thought that I thought.
Exactly my point. And according to Sameena's friend, she was supposed to check into a hotel on Christmas Eve with Roger for a romantic getaway, but she never did. And we know that she sent you a text on Christmas Eve. So the last time seeing or hearing from her wasn't at 4 p.m., Roger, when you left work. And then Roger changes his story. He admitted to police that, yes, he and Sameena were supposed to meet at a hotel and that they had a relationship, but he didn't see her because they got into an argument, a huge argument, on the way there, and she made him pull over and let her out of the car near her home. She got her bag and stormed off, but after that, he hadn't seen her. He said he did get an angry text from her, but he didn't respond because he didn't want to throw gasoline on the fire. He thought if they slept on it, he could reach out in the morning, hence the Merry Christmas text, okay?
Okay.
But police are challenging his story right and left. They tell him that they have his, not just hers, his ANPR and CCTV footage showing his car driving to and from Leicester, where your brother lives. Anything you want to tell us or change? Roger? So he then tells them that it was more than a simple drop-off, and police want to know why he lied to them in the first place. He tells them he knew that the real story of going to his brother's house to drop off, this Star Wars model, it would seem suspicious. Mm-hmm. And that he had just left her in a parking lot because she wanted to get out of his car. It didn't cast him in the best light to the authorities. And he knew that. So that's why he didn't tell them. And he tells the police that he didn't lay a finger on Sameena. And then as he's sitting in the police station, he's reading the last text Sameena had sent to him. They show it to him. Right. I want somebody who's going to treat me better.
Sure.
The fake one.
Right.
And Roger just starts to boo-hoo. He just never expected that to be the last time he spoke to the woman that he'd been in love with for 2 years.
And the Oscar goes to...
And the Oscar goes to... Ugh. Now, the police think he's full of crap, but they need more evidence than what they have to arrest him. Police go back to Sameena's phone network, and this time they ask for the towers her cell phone had pinged on Christmas Eve and the days that followed. And they tell the police that Sameena's phone left Coventry and went to Leicester and then back to Coventry on Christmas Eve. And Sameena's family and friends told police she didn't know anybody in Leicester. But they also pull the records for Roger's phone, and his phone also went from Coventry to Hudgenden Drive in Leicester, back to Tilehurst Drive in Coventry, where Roger lives with his girlfriend on Christmas Eve. So Roger's lied once again. They start tailing him.
Right.
They start looking into his history, and it doesn't take much to discover that Roger's brother, David, lives in Leicester. And they start looking into David's background, and this is when they find out that he owns this allotment of land just a stone's throw from his home. On January 7th and 8th, 2015, Roger and David Cooper were arrested on suspicion of murder. Police searched their houses, and Roger's home, because the murder didn't happen there, is clean. But when they search David's house, police find the bottle of Bellini and the snacks that Sameena bought at the M&S market after work on Christmas Eve. Proof that she had been there and inside the home.
Wow.
Then the police go to the allotment, the plot of land that David has near his home, and they search a shed there. And inside they find a sign, and you can't make this up. They find a sign that says, "Don't wind me up. I'm running out of places to hide the bodies." Now, this is the sort of thing that we post in the In-Laws and Outlaws, right?
Yeah.
But for David, it's real.
Wow.
Authorities get a search warrant and head over to this little patch of land with police, forensics, cadaver dogs. They knew they were going to find Sameena somewhere in this allotment.
Okay.
They dig, starting in the evening and into the night, and eventually they find material. It's the sleeping bag. And inside, 3 weeks after she goes missing, is the saran-wrapped body of Sameena Imam.
Wow.
Now, the police want to have another chat with David about what they found, and here's the story he weaves. On Christmas Eve, he was at home. This is the brother. On Christmas Eve, he was at home. Then between 5 and 6:30, there was a knock at his door, and David tells the police that he doesn't like people. I don't like people. So he doesn't answer the door right away. He kind of waits to see if they're going to go away. But then he decides, well, it could be his brother. Like his brother had just left, but maybe he was coming back because he forgot something, like another Star Wars model or figurine.
Yeah.
He forgot Jabba the Hutt. So eventually he does get up, he answers the door, and when he does, he was really surprised and confused because there's a woman standing at the front door. He says he did, in fact, know who she was. She was the woman his brother Roger was sleeping with from work. But yet he tells him that he'd never really met her, quote, properly, end quote. He tells the police that he allowed her into his home. He wanted to make sure that the police understood that he, in fact, invited her into his house. Then he tells the cops that his brother Roger wasn't really having an affair. Roger and Sameena, these two were just hooking up. It was just sex. So it wasn't like he was cheating on his live-in girlfriend, Susan.
Jeez.
What the heck in heck? It's just sex, so it's not cheating?
Oh, man.
I mean, I guess because it wasn't an affair of the heart. Maybe that's what he's trying to say.
Okay.
David tells the authorities that Sameena didn't even know where Roger lived. If she was something important to his brother Roger, she would have known he had a long-term live-in girlfriend, and he would know she would know where he actually lived.
Right.
So hold the phone. Sameena didn't know where Roger lived, but she knew where David lived an hour away in a different town. And he knew who she was, but he'd never really met her properly.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sack of wet hair.
Yep.
But now, according to David, she's turned up on his front stoop because she's trying to find Roger. And so he tried to calm her down, but he wasn't going to let her know where Roger lived or where he was, because according to him, she was demanding to know where Roger was because she told him that the two of them had made plans. She begs him to call for her now. And David tells the police that he told her he would find Roger if she would just calm down. I'll call him. I'll find out where he is, and we can make a plan from there. But he tells police that he was really nervous because Sameena was getting very angry and loud, and the walls of his house were thin, and he didn't want to make his neighbors worry. That's mighty nice of Roger, now isn't it?
Wow.
He's out digging a grave in his allotment, but he's worried that if somebody's speaking too loud in his house, the neighbors are going to worry.
Man.
He tells the police he had to do something because she was causing a scene. And then, just like you'd said, how the people who are guilty start to overshare.
Yep.
David goes off on this wild tangent. He tells the police that he has lots of interesting things in his house that other people might not find interesting. Like what, David? What would you say?
Okay.
Like a military ammo box that I keep in the kitchen, which just happens to contain a small container of chloroform. You know, where everybody keeps their chloroform, right?
Jeez.
In the kitchen, on the counter, in an ammo box.
Okay.
He tells the police that he decided that he needed to give her a little hit of the chloroform just to shut her up for a bit so he could call his brother and give him a heads up about the situation with Sameena. He tells the police that he'd seen it on television lots of times, and he knew to pour it on a cloth and hold it up to her nose and mouth for a little bit, and she's just going to pass out. Okay, a PSA for everybody out there. It's never like it is on TV.
Yeah.
Quote, I got the chloroform. I poured it over a tea towel, and I kind of put it on her face, sat on her lap. Her arms went up, and I grabbed her arms, and I forced them down. And I was like, just a couple of breaths. And then she didn't wake up, end quote. It's then that he tells the police that his intention was never to kill Sameena. He just wanted to, quote, shut her up, end quote, for a few minutes so he could think, so that he could deal with the situation. He said that very quickly he realized that something had gone wrong. He realized he hadn't just knocked her out from the chloroform. He feels for a pulse, and she's not breathing. She was gone. He said that the chloroform was starting to burn his hand, and he panicked.
Okay.
Now, for Roger's part, when the body is found on his brother's property, he immediately tries to diminish any part he had in Sameena's death. This is his brother.
Yeah, well, you can throw your brother under the bus. I guess,
He said that he only saw her dead body after his brother Roger had inadvertently killed her. He was shocked and he was panicked, but he did not kill Sameena. He said that Roger had, quote, gone too far, end quote, and that he'd only really helped in moving the body and the car. He wasn't a participant in the planning and the murder of the woman he needed to, quote, get rid of, end quote. Yeah.
Well, but you can be an accessory.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Well, David decided he was going to cover it up because no one knew that Sameena was at his house, and she certainly wasn't going to say anything. But then he tells the police that he didn't bury her body himself. His friend Ben came and picked up Sameena's body without asking a single question and took it to the allotment and buried her. But Ben never buried anybody. He never called a guy named Ben. He never called anybody. he buried her body.
Yeah.
And maybe he's trying to come across to the police that he was so traumatized at how she died accidentally that he couldn't handle it. So Ben had to bury her body. He was too distraught to bury her body.
Thanks, Ben.
Then he tells the police that while Ben was burying Samina's body, he drove Samina's car to Luton and left it there. And the police are listening to this line of cock and bull that Roger and David have both fed to them, but their story just doesn't jive with the physical evidence that they had. Plus, their stories didn't even line up with each other, and these two are charged with murder. They both plead not guilty, which was the one thing these two bozos could agree upon. But then David finally admitted that Ben did not bury Samina's body. He did. Who is this Ben guy even? I mean, poor Ben. He's dragging his buddy Ben's name through the mud.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the autopsy, which you were talking about before, shows that Sameena was murdered using the chloroform, but that this bizarre combination of metallic elements were also found in her bloodstream, and they think it was administered in liquid form.
Wow.
In August of 2015, they put these two on trial for the murder of Sameena at Birmingham Crown Court. The prosecution alleges that Sameena was murdered after she formed a relationship with Roger Cooper and issued an ultimatum for him to leave his long-term partner. Continuing the Crown's opening statement on the second day of the trial at Birmingham Crown Court, prosecutor Timothy Spencer told jurors that a plan against Sameena was, quote, frustrated, end quote, on December 11th because she'd taken a cab to the hotel and not her car. This is where they used the Star Wars lingo, including a text that read, quote,
"Look at the size of that thing."
"Look at the size of that thing," end quote.
Wow.
And finally, that quote, "There is no point, it's come to nothing, the window is not open," end quote. Now, the prosecution tells the jurors about Roger and David's love for Star Wars models and action figures. They show the eBay record of purchase where David bought the chloroform and the mineral powers before they tried to abduct her and kill her the first time on December 13th, because the police have these text messages between the two of them.
Yeah.
They don't just start when she disappears. They go way back and start looking at everything between these two brothers. And they're like, none of what you have told us is the truth. You're just both lying sacks of you-know-what.
Right, right.
The police actually discover that the purchase was made on eBay on December 8th. So it's all planned. It's very, very pre-planned. And the prosecution showed that David had 3 cell phones, including a, quote, dirty phone or a burner phone that he used only for communication with his brother. That's the military guy. They have the phone records, CCTV, the pings from the cell towers to know that they tried to murder her not once, but twice. And with their lame stories and alibis, they're both found guilty.
Good.
Before they're sentenced, Sameena's younger brother gave an impact statement saying he was constantly reminded of her loss, even by everyday items such as signposts for places that linked her to her death. Quote, "The circumstances in which Sameena was murdered plagued me greatly. I think of her last moments, her final thoughts and fears. I constantly imagine the look in her eyes," end quote. He said he was haunted by an image of his sister in her makeshift grave and told the judge, Patrick Thomas, quote, "I worry about the world we live in and the risk that something similar could happen. God forbid. I have questions for those who did this. I fear these questions, these open wounds will never be answered, will never heal," end quote. Which is true. She is a world beater. She's this amazing woman, but she got mixed up with the wrong guy who just continually lied to her.
Sure.
Her sister's impact statements were read to the court by the Crown's prosecutor and were similar, saying that, quote, "She's constantly thinking about how she died and feels she will never know the truth of what really happened to her," end quote.
Sad.
Roger and David Cooper were sentenced to a minimum of 30 years in prison. The lead detective gave an interview where she said that it was the most callous and calculated crime she had witnessed in her career. And this case really underlines how a seemingly ordinary workplace affair can conceal a sustained, highly organized plan for a murder built not on sudden rage, but on weeks of calculated preparation.
Right.
And it's really striking how much of the truth emerged from these digital breadcrumbs, the texts in clumsy French, the Star Wars code, the ANPR hits, the online purchases, rather than from either of the brothers, given that they both repeatedly reshaped their stories to protect themselves. Nobody but themselves. Sameena's story is a reminder that professional success, intelligence, and close family ties do not protect someone from the risks of a partner who is a liar and a cheat and is desperate to preserve his double life. Her trust in Roger and her hope for a future with him were precisely what made her a vulnerable woman. And at the same time, the case shows a modern UK homicide. A missing person inquiry turned quickly into a no-body murder and then into a conviction supported by forensics, toxicology, networked databases, and careful reconstruction of movements over time. So we had an upbeat, well-liked marketing manager expecting romantic Christmas, two very tall brothers, one ex-military, quietly buying chloroform and medals and digging a grave on their allotment, and a judge ultimately calling their conduct, quote, callous and calculating as he imposed their life sentences. And as with many workplace affair homicides, what lingers is the sense of how avoidable it should have been, and how once the brothers committed to protecting Roger's image and lifestyle at any cost, everything in Sameena's life and her plans became expendable. But that is the story of Sameena Imam, and that's all I have to say about that.
All right. My take on this whole thing is probably not part of what the story is. It's about the cameras, the CC cameras that the UK have. I know there's a lot of question here in the States when people get really upset about privacy and all this stuff. But when you look at a situation like this, maybe these guys wouldn't have been caught if it weren't for the investigative work from the CC cameras.
Yeah, the CCTV cameras were actually like in the grocery store and places like that they went. And then the other cameras were the ones, I can't remember exactly the acronym that they used, but yeah, to catch the license plate tags. And if you think about it, the license tags on the cars in the UK and in Europe, they're really long and big and bold.
Yeah.
And in the United States, it's more about how cool the state's license plate can look.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's kind of amazing. And I just want to say, I don't think enough people realize that young women and women who are out there dating, if they meet somebody online or whatever, and they're going to meet up with them, they don't let them pick them up, obviously, but they're going to meet them at a restaurant or whatever. Sometimes it's really smart to do this too. Bring a friend who's just going to sit in the background, because you just don't know who you're really dealing with, because she dated him for 2 years and she worked with this guy.
Yep.
And he was still willing to just make her life expendable because he didn't want to get caught with all his women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Sad.
Be careful, ladies. Just be careful out there.
Well, these guys are gone, so.
They are. They're sitting in jail.
Well, let's go to some people we wish were gone with a little bless your heart.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, this first one I'm simply calling Oops.
Oops,
Yep.
I did it again. Okay, sorry, showing my age again.
Well, Monroe County, Ohio. An Ohio man has been arrested after he unknowingly sent meth through a bank air tube, according to deputies.
What?
The Monroe County Sheriff's Office says they responded to a Woodfields bank on December 3rd after an unknown substance was sent through the drive-through air tube.
What did they think they were sending through it?
Deputies say the recovered baggie contained a crystal-like substance that was consistent with methamphetamine.
Okay.
Officials say 46-year-old Jason G. Smith of Woodsfield was located in Wayne Township by officers with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources.
Okay.
Deputies say additional suspected drugs and drug-related items were recovered from Smith's truck. He was arrested and taken to the Monroe County Jail. Illegal drugs don't belong in bank drive-thrus, the Monroe County Sheriff Derek Norman said in a post on the department's Facebook page.
Seriously?
But they can be turned in at the sheriff's office. So that was nice.
What did he think he was putting a check in there? Did he think that were there like coins and stuff in this bag?
Who knows?
God bless his heart.
Yeah. Okay, number 2, I'm calling 1.28 gigawatts. Ormond Beach, Florida. A Florida man accused of stealing a BMW convertible and crashing it at high speed told Volusia County deputies that he had teleported into the car.
Oh.
According to body camera footage released by the sheriff's office.
That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah. Deputies said 36-year-old Calvin Curtis Johnson was found with a bloody face after the wreck Monday. The backstory? When asked how he ended up behind the wheel of the stolen vehicle, Johnson repeatedly told deputies that he had teleported. "Put your hands on my car," a deputy is heard saying in the body camera. "Yes, sir, I teleported," Johnson replies. The incident began at Bicentennial Park in Ormond Beach, where a man walking his dog left his keys inside his BMW.
Well, that wasn't too smart, but okay.
Deputies said a thief quickly took advantage. A witness told investigators he saw a man who appeared confused get into the vehicle. He asked for a light, the witness said. "I thought, how does he have a BMW if he doesn't even have a lighter for a cigarette?" Moments later, deputies said the stolen car was seen speeding at more than 130 miles an hour before crashing at Old Dixie Highway and Plantation Oaks Boulevard.
Oops.
Video shows the BMW engulfed in flames as deputies pulled Johnson from the driver's seat. I love this part. Quote, "You saved me from the aliens," Johnson told a deputy after the crash. Once firefighters extinguished the flames, deputies took Johnson to a hospital and later to the county jail.
I was going to say, did they take him to the county psychiatric ward?
Man, Johnson is charged with grand theft and driving while his license is canceled.
Oh, I was going to say suspended
or revoked.
Oh,
yeah.
Bless his heart. Don't leave your keys in your car, peeps.
I'm just glad he was saved from the aliens.
I am too.
All right.
Nothing worse than being taken by the aliens.
All right. Number 3 and finally.
Finally.
But it looks so cute. According to the probable cause affidavit, police noted while detaining, Crop is her name, what appeared to be a bow in her hair. Quote,
okay.
The bow appeared to be small, Ziploc bag containing a white crystal-like substance of suspected methamphetamine.
She had a bow in her hair that was a Ziploc bag? I'm confused.
The baggie had a small rubber band around the middle, giving it a bow shape and was attached to a bobby pin.
Oh my hell. No way.
The substance was affixed to the right side of her head, attached to her hair, the affidavit states. When confronted about the illicit accessory, Cropped claimed, that's the person, to know nothing of its existence and accused someone else of placing it on her head.
Oh my gosh.
Looney also found multiple bags, Looney is the officer, of meth and drug paraphernalia upon searching the contents of Cropp's purse, the station reported.
Imagine that.
Yeah, Crop, whose bond was set at $23,210, has been charged with felony counts of possession of meth or cocaine with purpose to deliver and possession of drug paraphernalia. She is also charged with misdemeanor counts of driving with a suspended license and not having liability insurance, the bulletin reported.
Oops.
So there you go.
Oh my gosh, that's great. She made a bow out of a bag of drugs and put it in her hair in a bobby pin.
She couldn't even find a real bow and tried to disguise it, just use a baggie.
I mean, it's convenience. What can you say?
I guess.
Well, if you have a bless your heart or you know somebody's heart who needs blessing, all you got to do is go to hitchtahomicide.com. When you're there, there's a pull-down menu. While you're there, you can suggest a case or tell us about your brush with true crime. I totally screwed that whole thing up, but you all know that whole spiel. That's my amazing husband out there.
And that's my beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitched to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.